Welcome to Truth Seekers.
Hello, friends. Good morning, and welcome to the Seiker Podcast on Service of Change Radio, where we challenge reality, question that which we've been taught, and hope to inspire a new direction of thought to bring about change. I'm your host, Dennis Nappy II, on this Monday, July 20th, 2015. Came across some fascinating information that just resonates with everything I've been talking about in terms of energy, the influence of energy, the power that human beings have, and meditation. I want to talk about that today. It's really resonating with me. Before we jump right into that, just want to talk a little bit about some other things that are going on in my life that I actually experienced this weekend. I was talked about in a previous podcast how I took a walkabout and let my intuition guide me, and it brought me to this really neat trail in an area that I had previously been to and never knew existed. So I had an opportunity to explore that trail, and it was beautiful. Just kind of a meditative walk through the woods led me to this really nice stream or almost a river, just way deep in the woods. So it's pretty cool being back there by myself. At one point I definitely heard something walking through the woods, sounded like it was stalking me, and it just stayed hidden enough where I couldn't see it, but I could see the leaves and the brush moving and stuff. So on my way back out of the woods, what I had seen actually crossed my path and then followed my path a little bit were cat tracks. So on a decent size, at least probably 60-pound animal that was in the vicinity of where I was hiking. So fortunately, it didn't decide to eat me for lunch or dinner. But it was a really cool experience. But during that walk, a bug flew into my eye, and I didn't think anything of it at the time. I got it out and kept on going. But the next day, I woke up and definitely, no doubt, had a scratched cornea. Now, this is probably the fourth time I've scratched my cornea in my 35 years of existence on this planet. So, I knew what to expect, and every time it's happened, I've gone to either the emergency room or to an eye doctor, and they put drops in it. They give me antibiotics. At one point, the guy had to actually take a Q-tip and scrape a rock out of my eye. So I've been through this before, but knowing me and knowing that I'm looking for alternative ways to treat ourselves, I decided to take this one on my own, and it's risky because the eyes are something you don't want to mess with, but I didn't have any other major symptoms. I didn't have any issues with my vision. I didn't have any blurriness. I didn't have any seepage, which would be indications of an infection or of real damage to your eye. So I'm based on my assessment, I assumed it was a minor scratch, a minor abrasion on my eye. So what I did was I flushed it with I boiled some water, let that water cool, and added some salt to it, and I started doing some rinses of it. And I initially put an eye patch over my eye, and that ended up just making it feel 10 times worse. So I took the eye patch off, and I was flushing it with that, and doing a little bit more research on what are some good ways to treat it. And chamomile tea actually is a good antibiotic, antiviral properties that it has in it. So I made up a batch of chamomile tea, soaked once it cooled, I took the patch, the tea bag, and I soaked it on my eye for about 10 minutes. And then every few hours I would take just one drop of chamomile. I had a little eyedropper, and I would put one drop in my eye. And it initially burned, and it felt like my eye got real dry, and then all of a sudden, when you've scratched your cornea, it constantly feels like there's debris in your eye because it's swollen. So it feels like you have something in your eye rubbing between your eye and your eyelid. As soon as I put that drop of chamomile tea on it, that sensation went away. So now I'd say my eye feels about 95% better after about 3 days of treating it, and I don't feel the need to go to the doctor. It's definitely healing. They say that most cases it'll heal on its own. There was no need for antibiotics because, again, I'm a huge proponent of, let's do our best to avoid using these things unless we absolutely have to. Obviously, consult a doctor and do what you're comfortable with. But for me, I've been doing my own research, trial, error, experimentation, whatever you want to call it, on myself for about the last 3 years now, trying to learn what works and what doesn't work. Again, I'm not saying don't go to the doctor, and with the eyes, it's definitely something you don't want to mess with, but I think I've come far enough where I can take certain risks comfortably now and be okay. So I'm proud of myself for that because I feel like I've made real progress in my personal battle against big pharma because of the problems they've caused in this world. So that's my small changes, but it really is starting to have a massive impact. And the other thing is that's great about it is like when my kids get sick, when my kids get an injury, it's knowing first aid, first of all, but it takes it a little bit further than that. There's no panic anymore when it's something that I can recognize and I can deal with. It's such an extra sense of security, knowing that, hey, there's things around the home, there's things that are growing in my front yard, that if you get sick, I can help you. I can help myself, and you don't have to go rely on a doctor or some expert. And let's face it, over the past 10 years, most of my doctor's visits, you walk in for a physical or for a checkup, and they come in, they ask you one question, they write something in a chart, and they leave. And it's like, what the heck? My wait in the waiting room was a lot longer than my visit at the doctor's. Now, if you have a doctor who resonates with you a lot better, even better. And again, I'm not saying don't go to the doctors at all, but I think there's more that we can do. To me, that's health care, caring for your own health. It should, that's the business I think we all need to be in. Take that holistic approach. The food that we eat, the exercise, the meditation, the things that we put into our mind, body, and spirit, that's healthcare. That's holistic healthcare. So that's what I look at, and it does make a difference. It's made a major difference in my life, and it makes me feel good about myself. And now I'm bragging about it on the air, so there we go. So I also went out to our local farmers market, and like I said, I'm really been pushing this. Let me respond to where my intuition is leading me as I'm doing my research. There's a quote or a quatrain, a prediction by Nostradamus that I'm not going to quote it yet because I don't remember it. I just know the content of it. But long story short, I'm going through and I follow my intuition through this giant farmer's market in my area, and it led me to this one little spot where there's a little corner of a place where there's guys selling books. And sitting right there is a book of all of Nostradamus's predictions and prophecies. So I said, okay, cool, I'm going to get this book. I start talking to the guy. He's a retired minister. He's a published author. We start talking about writing. Had a great discussion. I talked to him a little bit about, my upcoming book, Food for the Archons, and he just seemed to be on the same page. A different approach to it, because of his religious training, which is fine. I made a connection with him, and it was just pretty awesome. So as I'm finished up with him, I'm walking out. I literally walk out the door because there's an inside and outside part. I literally walk outside, and I hear a woman behind me say, yeah, hold this stone. Feel the frequency there vibrating. Feel the energy coming from that. So I said, whoa. My sensors go off. I turn around. I go in, and I met a woman who did a lot of work with crystals. She was a Reiki master, and we had about an hour-long discussion about all the stuff we talk about on this show. And it was neat to make that connection with somebody. And I guess my point is when you're open to it, you can really find what resonates with you. And I ended up getting a couple stones, for myself and for my family. And the reason why that was so significant is because what I'm going to talk about today is something I was listening to the other day, just the day before that I met this woman, talking about the frequencies, the vibrations of human beings, of the earth, of how research has been done that shows that we do resonate with ourselves, with one another, with other things on this earth, and these things we can use, this knowledge we can use as tools to help us, to change our mood, to attract things that we want, literally to change the world, to manifest things. And again, I know this sounds new agey, but what I'm saying is it's actually science-y. It's not just some, philosophy now. There is science that backs this up. And I want to talk about this documentary that I'm not even through it yet, but it's just resonating with me so strongly. But before I even get to that, I've talked about the Institute of Heart Math and things that Greg Braden has said, and I've talked about on the show how there's been a science experiment that has been done that has shown to reduce violence in certain war zones. And I came across an article. A friend of mine shared an article on his newsfeed today, and I shared it to the Truth Seekers Facebook page. And if you haven't subscribed to Truth Seekers yet through the Facebook page, I highly recommend it. Facebook.com/TRUTHSEIKERS. A lot of good stuff on this subject up there. He shared an article from a website called Earth We Are One. It's EWAO.com. And this particular article is called Science Has Spoken. Group meditation literally changes the world. This is the stuff that I've been talking about. Again, I'm a pure amateur, but I don't understand why we're not teaching this stuff in schools. This has nothing to do with religion. Let me say that again. This has nothing to do with religion. This is understanding how the human body, the human mind, human consciousness works, just like we study how the heart works, how the brain works, how all your physical organs work. There is more to us than we realize, just like my book is titled, okay? We have an actual connection, an actual relationship, basically like an internet Wi-Fi capability to tap into, to program, and we're not using it. Now, this talks about, and I'm quoting here, in 1978, a study was conducted on a group of meditators, and as a result, the Maharishi Affect was discovered. 7,000 people meditated with the intention of having a positive effect on the surrounding city for 3 consecutive weeks. As a result of their intentional and collective meditation efforts, the collective energy of the city was totally transformed. In fact, the meditation effort was so powerful, it reduced global rates of crime, violent acts, and deaths by an average of 16%. There was also a reduction in the amount of suicides and car accidents, and this was all with variables being accounted for. To top it off, there was a 72% reduction in terrorist activity during the meditation project. Since this time, more than 50 studies have been done to test the validity of the Maharishi Effect, and the results have been confirmed the direct impact global meditation has on the world. These studies are so clearly indicative of the power of meditation to transform global energy patterns that the results have been published in the Journal of Crime and Justice. Okay, so, and this article goes on, a little bit longer and talks about it a little bit more. So here's what I'm going to say. This, according to this study and other studies that have been done, this works. I've talked about my personal experiences with my intuition that have led me to different things. There's a connection there. There's a real power here. There's an energy relationship that we have. Like I said, much like the Wi-Fi internet, that quantum physics is starting to understand. Or let me preface that. Mainstream headline readers, or mainstream people who aren't quantum physicists now have access to start to understand the research that's been going on for, the past 50 to 20 to 50 years now at the quantum level. We're starting to have better access and understanding of this. And I think because of our understanding of the internet, it gives us a common language to use as a metaphor to better understand some of this stuff. So we're at a state now where we can understand this, put this in words that we can understand, and develop methods and techniques that we can use to make a difference in this world. Again, we don't have to take to the streets because I talked about before, it's our intent. And if our intent is to protest and fight something, that's what you're putting out there into the world. That's what you're going to feed off of. So the first thing I want to say is if we have this information and we know that this works, why is this not being taught? Why isn't this making it to the mainstream? Why is this not being put into our schools? Because this can change things. This can make that difference. What I'm saying is there's hope out there, my friends. We can do something. And I know we always say, well, why, like I'm saying, why isn't the government doing this? Because we have to stop relying on them. Because this, again, should be another piece to the puzzle that this is not what they want. War is a business. Sickness is a business. Fear, okay, and I talked about this. There's another side to it. There is a negative energy output that's out there that those parasites that I've spoken of are feeding off of. Listen to my talk that I put out either last week or the week before on the documentary The Nightmare. There are, whatever you want to call them, incubus, succubus, the archons, energy parasites. They feed off of this stuff. And the world is designed, according to Carlos Castaneda and some of the experiences of Robert Monroe, this is designed for us to put out this negativity because it's a source of nourishment. This energy is what they crave. So I'm talking about potential avenues to explore to counteract this. Now, they said that, suicides and things were down 17%. Okay, it's not 100%, but two things to say on that. Well, what if somebody in that 17% that was going to commit suicide didn't? That's somebody you care about. There you go right there. You just saved the life of somebody that you care about by learning these meditative techniques, okay? And, the other aspect of it is, well, it's not 100%. Why do it? It's only 17%. Well, maybe it's not 100% yet because we haven't refined the techniques enough because not enough people are aware of it. Okay, and the other thing that Greg Braden has talked about is it's a very small number of people that are needed to enact this change. Well, what if everybody was doing it? Now, okay, we might not get everybody to do it, but here's the other piece to that. Okay, do I want to get to that part yet? Yeah, let me talk about this documentary. Now, this documentary, it's on the Truth Seekers YouTube page. So go to youtube.com/ I think it's under Truth Seeker. TruthSeiker. Just type that into the search engine, or just click on our Truth Seeker videos on our Facebook page, or through Service of Change, and you can find them there. Okay, but this video is called, it's 2.5 hours. I'm about 1 hour and 10 minutes in. Mind Science Kept Hidden Documentary. We are vibrational beings, law of attraction / vibes. So again, it's called Mind Science Kept Hidden Documentary. We are vibrational beings, law of attraction / vibes. Again, it sounds new agey and it makes me uncomfortable. But when you listen to this, it's scientists, it's researchers, it's people talking about things. What gets me is I have my intuition, I have an experience, and then I come across other people that have had the same experience and other people who have done scientific research proving what I have experienced is in fact a real event. I'm running out of time here, but I'm gonna go a little bit longer than I normally do. This documentary it just blew my mind. They talked about, number one, the makeup of the human body and the human cell, how it is designed to not just receive energy and information, but also to transmit it. And they talked about how every person has a unique code or a unique vibrational pattern that they've uncovered. So you're vibrating at a particular frequency, and when you come into contact, they at one point were talking about a soulmate, and they said when you come, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic interest, but they said when you come in contact with these soulmates, and again that's a new agey term, but for the purpose of this discussion, let's use it. When you come in contact with somebody who has the same frequency as you resonate with them, you get along with them, there's that instant connection with them, you're actually sharing information. They have measured the auric field, the biosphere, this energy that your body puts out. It interacts with people, physically at a distance. You don't have to touch somebody. You don't have to talk to somebody. Now, have you ever met somebody and you've got, I got a good vibe about that person. I got a bad vibe about that person. Because you're resonating. Now, if you take a tuning fork, it's the same thing. If you have a fork at one frequency and another fork that tunes at the same frequency, you chime the one fork, put the other fork next to it, they both start to vibrate because they resonate at the same frequency. What these studies are saying is that human beings are the same way. There's an energetic level of communication. As an empath, I can tell you, I've known this my whole life. You start to receive things and you can send things to other people. So, this documentary goes through and talks about the science behind that, the breakdown of the human cell and the crystalline structure and the things that are out there. And I talked about the other day, the study that talked about the information exchange and the influence that the earth has and the sun has over the human experience. Now, let's take this, on a different level, and let's talk about the mob mentality, because you can start to resonate. Your frequency can change. You can start to resonate at a different frequency. So if you are in a crowd, this is why as empaths we have a tough time in crowds, because everything is vibrating at a frequency that's not yours. You're very aware of your own energy and your output and your input. So when you're in a mob, this is why everybody kind of goes crazy, because they get caught up in the insanity of it, because everybody starts vibrating the same way, on the same level. Okay, so they start acting crazy and rioting and hurting people and violence and just all that chaos. That's the mob mentality. There is a science behind it. Again, that warrants mainstream attention. And as I've said before, that and this documentary has shown the energetic output of people. Something comes out of the heart, and it can be good or bad. You can send positive intentions, out of your heart and communicate with other people, and distance is no object. I'm going quick here just because I'm out. I know I'm out of time. But when you think about it, we resonate. That energy is now available for collection, but that, if it's just frequency and vibration, it can be manipulated and influenced, and it is. In certain ways, it's through the media, it's through the music we listen to, and through, who knows, they say they now have frequency and energy and pulse weapons. Our moods are being influenced and manipulated, and we need to be aware of it, because if you're aware of it, there are things we can do to counter it and to keep that positivity. Look into the website that I'll have this on the show notes. It's on the Truth Seeker Facebook page right now as well. Please check it out. You want to change the world. You want world peace. This is it, because according to the media right now, we're, in a state of chaos. The environment's, in a really bad state. The politics are horrible. People are protesting more and more. I just saw that there was riots erupting in the South. I don't know if it looks like it was just one incident and it's being blown up by social media, of course, to be, I saw one said the race wars are here, which I don't believe is true at all, but we can counter that negativity, and there's something we can do. And really, you don't even have to leave your house in a lot of cases. So, the problem is the change that I'm advocating. There's no emotional payoff in terms of everybody's so upset and so freaked out. Well, I'm just going to go in my house and meditate. Well, that will have a very positive effect, but you're not getting that, that big aha moment as far as, the same adrenaline rush that the violence is going to give somebody. And I think that's more appealing to a lot of people. So, again, I could go on forever about this. I'm excited about it. I feel that a lot of what I've been talking about has been proven, and I'm trying to play catch up to review all the evidence that's out there. It's like, here's what I've been saying, and before when I first started saying it, I couldn't really prove it. I've just been feeling it. But as the more I talk about it, the more I look into it, the more I'm finding that there is something to this, and I may not be completely accurate in what I'm telling you, but I know that I'm in the right direction, and I hope that you'll follow me, and I hope that you'll start making this more public, these conversations and discussions more public, because we have a chance. I do think that we're at a precipice right now. We're going to go one direction or the other or another. It doesn't have to be black and white, but I think that we can make a real difference in this world. So please look into some of these things that I'm talking about. Again, I'm going to go ahead and end the show right now. I think this can be a fantastic week for us. A lot of good things to look into. Like I said, I'm Dennis Nappy II on Service of Change Radio. This has been the Seiker Podcast. Remember that small changes among the masses can have a massive impact around the world. I encourage you to be that change. Never stop questioning and keep an open mind. Thank you.
Welcome to Truth Seekers.